Shalom, my friends. Welcome to this video concerning Daniel chapter 7 regarding the one like the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven. This is a very popular topic to discuss within Christian Jewish debates. This is actually a debate. I debated about this topic briefly with Courtney Smith, also known as Biblical Apologetics. I'll play a little clip from it, and we had a little final discussion on this on Clubhouse. But I'll play the clip just to summarize my argument about this. And I was able to go in more depth with more people on the Clubhouse app. So give this a listen.
This is ridiculous.
Okay, it is ridiculous. Daniel 7:27. And the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under all heavens will be given to the people of the high holy ones, plural. Doesn't say the high holy one, who's Jesus the Messiah, as you would say in your debates with, your little sheep noises, right? So its kingdom is a perpetual kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey it. It does not say only the Messiah. Gabriel gives us a one-to-one interpretation of what each beast means. The individual beasts refer to kingdoms, plural, not just one person.
So this is the summary of my argument. So in this debate, it was a little bit more heated. In the discussion that we had here on Clubhouse, which I'll go into more depth about it, we're discussing the exact same topic. And it's concerning Daniel 7, verse 27, and how the word Pelach is used. This is the word yiflachun. Christians claim that this is a word that is exclusive to divine worship. And in this verse, I am arguing that it is not, because it is given to a plurality of people, which is described as Kodshei Elyonin. This is the key phrase, and we'll get into more detail as we go. But here is the Clubhouse debate, and we will go through scripture in line with this.
I have a little bit of time if you guys are able to. There's a few things that, for one, and I've discussed this before, Pelach in Daniel 7:27 does not refer to divine worship, because the service is given to more than one individual. So unless you want to say that the holy ones of the Most High are all, a bunch of people who are being worshipped divinely, then you have that would have to be your interpretation of that verse when it says that the people of the Most High are receiving Pelach, right? It doesn't say that only one individual is receiving Pelach in Daniel 7:27.
Actually,
yes, it's in the Aramaic, Elyonin, which is the plural. So, but hold on, who's the myriads that's giving worship to the Son of Man, who you presuppose is Israel?
Sorry, ask that again.
Who is the myriads that's giving worship to the Son of Man, which you presuppose is Israel, the saints?
It says that the nations, it doesn't mention the Son of Man in Daniel 7:27, right? It does, remember, it's using, I'm just talking about the word Pelach, right? And the word is used in Daniel 7:27. It doesn't mention the Son of Man in Daniel 7.
So they're referencing back to Daniel 7:13 through 14. Of course, Christians are more concerned with this. I looked on in the night vision, one like a human being, or Son of Man, came in the clouds of heaven. He reached the Ancient of Days and was presented to him, right? Dominion and glory and kingship were given to him. And then it says all peoples and of nations of every language must serve him. So this word serve, yiflachun, right? This is the word pelach that is in question, whether or not this is exclusive to divine worship. It says his dominion is an everlasting dominion that shall not pass away, and his kingship one that shall not be destroyed. So what I was arguing, of course, in the debate with Courtney and here, is that this same word is used here with regards to the Kodshei Elyonin, which translates to, when put together, it doesn't, each word, Kadshe means like holy, and Elyonin is a word that's sort of equivalent to Elohim, right? Where contextually it can refer to God, or it could refer to holy people, which is why it says Kadshe Elyonin here. And that is how I've never seen a translation that doesn't translate it as a plurality of people, the people of the high holy ones. So that is what we are debating about, whether or not this word here, Yiflechun, refers to divine worship exclusively, or if it can be used as servitude. So, like servitude from not a person that is not worshiping something as a god, more like a service.
27, but it does mention the holy ones in the Most High. So I'm saying they are given Pelach in that verse, so that demonstrates that it's not exclusive to divine worship.
So yeah, you don't see anywhere in verse 27, in Daniel 7:27, where the word son of man is mentioned. You see a plurality of people, Kadshe Elyonin. It doesn't mention anything about a son of man receiving Pelach here exclusively.
The nations are giving. Well, then you have to deal with Daniel 7:27. If you believe that more than one person is divinely being worshipped, then that's your position. But it's not saying that one exclusive individual is given worship. It says that many people are receiving Pelach.
No, it doesn't.
So
if you read the text, so I'll read it.
It says
and then I'll read it in Hebrew
or Aramaic. It's not in Hebrew.
I know. I just corrected myself. So in the English, and it depends on your translation, which adds in the pronoun him, it says, "And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all the dominions shall serve and obey him." Now the pronoun him is added in. But if you look at, like, you can even pull up an interlinear if you wanted to, and it breaks it down.
Right, so the Aramaic word in question is in the plural form. It says Yiflechun v'yish tama'un.
Yiflechun v'yish tama'un. So these are the words I'm talking about. Pelach, right, to serve, worship, revere, minister, pay service or reverence to. Not exclusive to divine worship, as is understood here. That's why Sepharia explicitly says to obey them, right? Obey them. They shall serve and obey them. Usually this nun sofit, right, this final nun, denotes plurality typically. And then it even says they will, right? They will hear, right? This is, once again, using that plurality, that the nations will serve them, the Kadshe Elyonin, the holy ones of the Most High, not exclusively the one like the Son of Man, right? It's not mentioned there. So that's my argument. They are serving a plurality of people, not one singular individual.
Un at the end typically refers to a plural understanding. So that is how it is under, because it doesn't mention one singular individual who is receiving the kingdom. Who is receiving the kingdom? The holy ones, right?
You said typically or always?
Well, look in the book of Daniel and and tell me if you can find an example where that word is used in that such a way. Contextually, it wouldn't make any sense to say that it refers to exclusively one individual, because it's not mentioning the one like the Son of Man in the verse. It's mentioning...
I'm
yeah,
sorry
but
to
all
interrupt.
those people are going to serve the one.
What are we talking about?
Mentioned.
It doesn't say
Daniel
the one. Daniel 7:27. It doesn't say the one. It says they're serving the Kadshe.
What's the problem with Daniel?
Means
What's the problem? That I'm just wondering.
There's not a problem with it. I'm simply saying that Pelach is not exclusive to divine worship in Daniel 7:27. It's not used in that way.
But what I'm saying is you have two ways that you could possibly interpret this. Three, okay? So one, you'd have to ignore the fact that it was just mentioned with regards to the Messiah.
In the dream, this is the interpretation of the dream, right? If you want to take the beasts, right? When you look at the beasts, or do you believe that those are literal physical beasts roaming around that with iron teeth and wings, right? Daniel's giving the interpretation of the dream. What does the one like the Son of Man represent? And he doesn't say that it's the same exact thing that's in the dream, just like...
So what I'm referring to is if you read the full chapter of Daniel chapter 7, Daniel is receiving dreams. And in the dreams, he sees beasts, right? First was like a lion, but had eagle's wings, right? The wings are plucked off, and then there's a bear that's on one side with 3 fangs, right? Fantastical images of beasts. A leopard with 4 wings on its back, and then these are all, a 4th beast with great iron teeth, right? So this is all still part of the dream. Then you have the 10 horns. There's the little horn that's arrogant, right, of the 10 horns. And then you have the hair, the hair and the imagery with the tongues and the fire and the lamb's wool, right? And you have all these different fantastical imagery, right? And when you get to Daniel 7:13, it's still part of the dream, right? This isn't the part that is interpreted, right? This is still the dream. So it's still imagery of the one like the Son of Man, right? This is still part of the dream. And what's given is the dominion and the glory and the kingship, and all peoples and all nations of every language shall serve, right? It says shall serve him, and his dominion is an everlasting dominion, right? So this dream is, this one like the Son of Man is representative according to the next parts of the verse, right? Or the chapter, right? Because after Daniel 7:14, Daniel says, "For I, me, Daniel, my spirit was disturbed within me, and the vision of my mind alarmed me. I approached one of the attendants asking him the true meaning of all this, and he gave me an interpretation of this matter." So it's understood that this is the angel Gabriel explaining what these beasts represented in the dream, the interpretation. So we don't even have to guess what this is representing, right? Because the angel tells it to us. It says these great beasts represent 4 kingdoms. So it's not literal beasts. And then it says the holy ones of the Most High will receive the kingdom. Holy ones, Kadshei Elyonin, plural, not one singular individual. Who received the dominion in the kingdom in the dream, according to Daniel 7:13 through 14? The one like the Son of Man, right? Dominion and glory and kingship were given to him. Who receives it in the interpretation of the dream? The holy ones, Kadshei Elyonin, receive the kingdom. So the interpretation is saying that more than one person is receiving the kingdom. And Daniel 7:27 explains that not only do the Kadshei Elyonin, the plurality of people, receive the kingdom, they also receive Pelach, Yiflachun, just like the one like the Son of Man receives. That's the interpretation of the dream. That's what Scripture says. Kadshei Elyonin receive Yiflachun, and they also receive the kingdom. They receive Pelach, and they receive the kingdom. Clear as day. We don't have to go to any extra biblical sources to prove this. It's not just the Messiah. Even if you want to argue that this is referring to the Messiah, that's not a problem. I never denied, ever, in any conversation that I've had on this, that Daniel 7:13 through 14 is representative of the Messiah, that the one like the Son of Man is representative of the Messiah. What I deny is that the one like the Son of Man is separate from the rest of Israel, and therefore only the one like the Son of Man receives Pelach. Only the one like the Son of Man receives the kingdom. I've never said that, because that's not what Daniel's saying, right? And that's what I explain in Daniel 7:18, and we will get into that shortly.
The other, the beasts aren't literal beasts in the interpretation.
That's what I just said. I said the Son of Man, which you presuppose is the saints. You then said that Son of Man is nowhere mentioned in Daniel. Daniel.
Wait, I didn't say that. Wait, listen to it for just a second, okay? Here's how we can understand the Kadshei Elyonin. In Daniel 7:25, the same expression's used when it says he will speak words against the Most High, and he will oppress the high holy ones. So the word there is Kadshei Elyonin. Does this refer to one individual when it says he will oppress the high holy ones? Or does this refer to the Messiah when it says Kadshei Elyonin, he will oppress the high holy, and it says he will think to change the times in the law? Is that referring to only one individual when it says...
No, I agree he's talking about the saints. But
That's the key. So he agrees with me that this phraseology, if you get anything from this video, you don't even have to know Aramaic. Just see this. So it's really from here to here. Kadshe Elyonin. The u and the le are prefixes to say and the, and to the holy ones of the Most High, right? Kadshe Elyonin, the holy ones, right? In this verse it says, he will speak words against the Most High and he will think to harass Kadshe Elyonin, the holy ones of the Most High. That's how it's translated. He will think of changing the times in the law. So if we're going to argue that Kadshe Elyonin, if he's acknowledging that this is a plural reference, right? This same phraseology is used in Daniel 7:27, and it's used again in Daniel 7:18. And you'll see how I relate to that, showing that this is a plural statement. It's not just the Messiah.
Exactly. So the same words in the Aramaic are used for the holy ones in Daniel 7:27. So if you agree with me that that's plural when it says the holy ones in Daniel 7:25, then why are you disagreeing me that that means the same thing in the plural in Daniel 7:27?
Yeah, because the whole context about the book of Daniel chapter 7, because when you start from 7 to 9, right, it describes the ancient of days and how everyone is surrounded before him. That's judgment. Verse 13 to 14 talks about the Son of Man, which you're presupposing is just Israel alone, or not Israel and with the Messiah, because the kings also have kings. The kingdoms also have kings who represent them. Okay,
so I agree with everything he's saying. This is a problem that Christians make every single time they debate me, 99% of the time, right? Is they will say, well, you don't believe this is about the Messiah. You think this is about Israel. I never said that. The Messiah is a part of Israel, right? I make it very clear in my debate with Courtney that I have no problem with this referring to the Messiah. I have a problem with the Pelach given exclusively to the Messiah. I have a problem with the kingdom given exclusively to the Messiah, because we know that that's not what the text says in Daniel 7:18 or Daniel 7:27, right? Both of those passages say that the Kadshe Elyonin receive not just the kingdom, right, but also the Pelach in Daniel 7:27. Checkmate. There's nothing they can do.
Fulfill me here. Okay, I then asked you in verse 27, when it says that all should serve, are you saying that it's supposed to be translated as all should serve them?
Well, yes, because it's the same phraseology used in Daniel 7:25, which you agreed with me when it says Kadshe Elyonin. Do you understand Aramaic? Can you read Aramaic?
Yeah, but
do you understand?
Hold on.
My argument that I'm making, the same phraseology, and it's translated the same way in the King James and the NIV.
Hold on
it says holy ones, right?
You didn't even let me finish. Now, me being a Trinitarian, when you read Daniel 7, when it says the thrones were cast down, okay, then it shows in verse 13 and 14, the Son of Man appears and he's going to sit on the throne. When you keep reading the rest of the Tanakh, he's going to sit as throne as judge, right? And then it says that the holy ones is gonna, when it says that in verse 27 that everyone should serve them, is talking about the Most High and the King, and that's what it's talking about when it says the thrones will be cast down.
Can you show me in Daniel 7:27 where it says it's exclusively speaking about the Most High and the King?
No, holistically, that's what it's talking about.
So he's making an assumption, right? Holistically, it's speaking about more than one person. That's why every translation you're going to find that I have ever seen translates Kadshe Elyonin as a plurality of people. That's who receives the kingdom. That's who receives the Pelach. It's in the plural. It's not something that is exclusive to one person. It's just not.
So Daniel gave an interpretation for the dream, right?
No, he didn't. The angel did.
yes, he was relaying what the angel told him. So if you want to get semantic about it, be my guest.
Okay.
Yes, he was given the interpretation and he described what those things represented. In the explanation that Daniel was given, he didn't say that the one like the Son of Man is exactly the same in the interpretation. Likewise, he didn't do the same with the beast. He wasn't like, that beast, that's a literal beast that's going to come.
How do you know that?
And destroy. Because that's not what Daniel says. If you look at, did you read the rest of Daniel past verse 14? He says that these are the kingdoms that are going to, that's where we get to the point where it says
reading. Don't stop, keep reading.
I know, that's exactly what I'm doing. And I'm saying, in the interpretation of the dream, the kingdom is given to a more than one person, right?
So so they represent kings, right?
It is, in the dream,
hold on.
it was representative
represents.
Yes, but you can't divorce the fact that the people are receiving the kingdom the same way as the one like the Son of Man received the kingdom. So you can't divorce the more than one person receiving the kingdom in the interpretation.
Who's worshiping them, you know?
So that's the problem with his interpretation of the text. He's saying that in Daniel 7:14, that only the one like the Son of Man is receiving Pelach. But he's ignoring the fact that in Daniel 7:18, it says that the holy ones of the Most High receive the kingdom. Not just one person. Kadshei Elyonin. There's no way around that. They're trying to say, well, you're saying that more than one person can, but it's only the Messiah. No, it's not. The dream is speaking about the one like the Son of Man who's representative of the Kadshei Elyonin, which is a plurality of people, which is inclusive of the Messiah. And the Christian has problems with that.
Answering the question, who is worshiping?
I am. It doesn't say that they're being worshipped. It says that they're being served because they're not all gods.
Who is serving them? Answer the question.
The kingdoms of the world are serving them.
How can the kingdom serve
the world?
Sorry, my bad.
All of the other kingdoms are serving them, recognizing that they are the ones who were chosen to inherit God's kingdom, right? This is consistent with other where in Scripture, where it says that the Gentiles will come to Israel, the Jews effectively, and learn the Torah from them.
Because I can use the LXX on you, and it translates as the saints, singular. Okay, I'm just going with
one individual. What are you saying?
Yes,
you're saying that,
when it talks about
Daniel 7:27 says, I'm looking at the Aramaic, right? I think the Aramaic would be the superior reading, and rather than going to the LXX, right?
So I even looked at the Septuagint, right? And here's what was really funny to me about that. So the word for that is here. Let's see what.
Strong's G 1398, Deluo.
So Deluo, right? So this is what is used in Daniel 7, right? In the Septuagint for the word serve. Why is this significant? Because when you look back at the context of how it's being used, this word right here, it says it is a future active indicative third person plural. Meaning that this serve word is demonstrating that it is being served to a multiplicity of people, not just one person, right? That's the context of this. And you can see the same word, see this word this is the actual word here, highlighted, and you can look this up yourself. This is the Pelach, the word that is in the Greek for Pelach, serve, right? And it's used in both Daniel 7:27 and Daniel 7:14. So the one like the Son of Man is receiving Pelach the same way that the ones in Daniel 7:27 are receiving Pelach. So it, in the third person plural, right, that is consistent with each other. So I don't understand why he's appealing to the Septuagint here, trying to assume that the Pelach is some sort of exclusively referring to one particular individual. As I said at the beginning, the word is in the plural here. Yiflachun, right? The way it's understood. Yiflachun is plural, and so is vayishtama'un, plural. It's not given to one singular individual.
I don't disagree with the Aramaic. The LXX proves my point.
The fact that you're going to extra biblical sources isn't proving your point. You're trying to move the goalpost.
That's not moving.
The Aramaic explicitly says, uses the same phraseology that you agree with me, refers to a plurality of people, the saints of the Most High, the holy ones of the Most High, however you want to say it, right? The same phraseology is used in Daniel 7:27 regarding who's receiving the Pelach. So that's how we know, unless you want to say that the saints of the Most High are divine, worthy of worship, of divine worship, then you don't have any other choice but to recognize that Pelach is not used for exclusively divine worship in Daniel 7:27.
But it is. And if you look at every
so
time
you believe that every single that the saints of the Most High are all
let her finish, bro.
God? Do you believe that?
No, I don't believe that they're God. But first of all, I'm going to take your interpretation, okay? And even if that is your interpretation, they're going to be a kingdom of nations. Everything in Daniel 7 with regard, and I'll pull it up all the times. It's used Daniel 7, I'm going from the bottom up. Daniel 7:27, Daniel 7:14, Daniel 6:20, Daniel 6:16, Daniel 3:27, Daniel 3:18, Daniel 3:17, Daniel 3:14, Daniel 3:12, and Ezra 7:24. So those are all the times that the word is used, 10 times, okay? And every single time you study it out, it is related to divine worship unto God.
So this is a faulty argument, because what Courtney is not telling you is that there is no word in the Hebrew language that denotes exclusively divine worship unto God, right? So why would we expect in Aramaic that there would be a word that is exclusive to divine worship unto God, right? Aramaic is very seldom used in the Tanakh. It's used in the book of Daniel, the book of Ezra, right? So there's not very many, there's a very small sample size of this word being used. If you watched my weekly Parsha with Yehuda last week, we talked about the word v'yishtachu, how that word is not exclusive to divine worship and how it's used to refer to, for example, the the prostration of Jacob to his brother Esav, right? That's not divine worship, obviously. And then we see in the book of Genesis as well, you see the word avodah, which is often used, or oved, right? Yavod, it says, 2 nations are in your womb. This is Genesis 25. 2 separate peoples shall issue from your body. One shall be mightier than the other, and the older shall serve Yavod, the younger, right? So sometimes this phrase, Yavod, is used for divine worship, but not always. It can also refer, you see to serve God, you see to serve with Levitical service, to work for another, serve another by labor. So that's the same way that the word Pelach is understood, right? There is no word in Hebrew that refers exclusively to divine worship. Context is key to understanding that. And that is the same case with the word Pelach. Why would we expect that the Aramaic language would, when it's so closely related to Hebrew, I don't know any other language that's as closely related to Hebrew as Aramaic, why would all of a sudden they come up with a word that's exclusive to divine worship, right? And Daniel 7:27 is the key to understanding that. It might be the only exception, but if Hebrew doesn't have a word that's exclusive to divine worship, then I think it makes more sense to recognize that we don't have to force Daniel 7:27 to refer to the worship of one individual when it explicitly is telling us that the Kodshei Elyonin are receiving Pelach They're not being worshipped as gods or as God. No, they're simply being served in the same way that we describe using v'yishtachu as well as yavod in Hebrew. Why invent some word that, some context to a word that doesn't exist and say, well, because it's only used this many times, it must refer to divine worship every time. Context tells us otherwise. And that's the problem, is that the Christians aren't interested in that.
We would call him Hashem. So if you want to say, and that's why translations put the word him in there when looking at, and they obey who? They obey him. So the servitude also goes to, quote, him. And if you want to push it further, if you go into the book of Revelation, you can see that there is the Lamb and you have God. And there's service unto him. One.
You said a key word, though. You said it also goes to him, which I wouldn't disagree with, but you...
See, she's actually admitting what I'm saying the whole time. It's not just to him, it's to more than one person. So she actually sort of let it slip. She has to recognize that it's not just to one person. It's also to the rest, the Kadshei Elyonin. There's no way around it.
Can't exclude the other people who are receiving the Pelach.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Yehuda's correct.
That's why there's no...
They're right on one end, but yeah, Yehuda's touching on a thing where you can't separate the Messiah from the people. The body, exactly. The people of the saints of the Most High is the body of the Messiah.
Yeah, we know that. We can go to
for the Messiah. Saying, for example, look at Revelation 2. This actually agrees with what Yehuda's saying right here. It says in Revelations 2:26, he says, then he that overcomes and keeps my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. As the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers. But you see it also fulfilled in his saints, because you can't separate the two. That's why you see one, which is the Mashiach, going to the Ancient of Days, but the Mashiach is not a single person. He has a body that's with him. So when you see the explanation given, you're seeing the saints are being given the kingdom. The Mashiach is the head of the saints. So
yeah, but in Revelation, hold on.
So Courtney actually was the one who brought up the book of Revelation earlier, if you listen, and it kind of dug her own grave in this argument, because while I'm not privy to using the New Testament and interpreting what it is, my whole strategy was to simply use the Tanakh to demonstrate this. But this David individual is attacking on another front to show the internal inconsistency within the New Testament of how the book of Revelation handles this. And Courtney kind of opened that can of worms by mentioning that. Because once again, they can't prove this using the Tanakh. They have to go to extra biblical sources. That's why you see the Septuagint being brought up, even though that didn't do anything for them. Like, they have to manipulate sources because the Tanakh is not on their side regarding this.
In Revelations, hold on. In Revelations, all nations
we were trying to make a
serve the king.
Tanakhic argument, not a New Testament argument.
Hold on. This is the Tanakh argument. I can make the same argument.
Hold on a
using
second.
the Tanakh.
Revelations.
Okay, but
sorry, my bad.
Go ahead, Torah.
No, I was gonna say Revelations. Like I agree, right? But all nations is worshiping the King in Revelations. He's saying that Israel is going to be worshipped or be served, right? And I'm asking, by who? Who? And he's saying it's all nations. That would contradict Revelations. Revelations is saying
I don't believe in the book of Revelation.
He's not concerned about Revelation.
I know. I'm talking to David. I was trying to say why that doesn't make any sense. I was going to get back to you.
Yeah. So what you're seeing is you're seeing God's people get the authority and the inheritance of the nations. The Messiah is the head of this body of people. So when you see, just like these beasts that you see, it's not just a government system is not just one person. A government system is a body of people that are ruled by one head. So when the head, which is the king of Israel, gets the kingdom, all of the saints get the kingdom and they rule over the world with their king. That's like when they came to David at Hebron and they said, we are your flesh and your bone, because they're telling David, we are your body. We are one. We are your flesh and your blood. The saints share in the inheritance of the kingdom of God, but they have a head who's ruling over all. But you can't exclude the saints from the king. That's why you're seeing one person go before the Most High. And the explanation is that the whole body is the one that's going to be ruling and receiving this service, because the saints, which is the head plus the body, are going to be ruling over the nations in the authority of God, and all of the nations will be subject and serving God, because the saints will be ruling over the world, and the nations will be subject to the saints, who has the Messiah as the head of the body. That's the interpretation.
Right, but there is a third person masculine singular word that identifies the pronoun, the nearest antecedent being the quote him, le, and that is the Messiah.
So this is an argument that I saw that it very confused me. It confused me a lot the first time I saw it. It's a weird argument, and I found that in this Answering Islam website by our friend Sam Shamoon, that individual who cussed me out and kicked me off his show. You can watch my debate with him and, his... Anyway, when you look at the word, so it says here, there is no pronoun before kingdom in the original Aramaic of verse 27, and Most High is the closest antecedent. So what they're failing to recognize, right? And then it says it's just a matter of truthfulness, despite the fact that the saints in verse 18 do receive and possess the kingdom forever, does not refute our overall position. Well, yes, it absolutely does. You're being willfully ignorant to the fact that, so it's using this word le, right? That's what she's referring to, is the word le. I don't see that under, I don't think, what's his name? Sam Shamoon, or the people on Answering Islam, understand the Aramaic enough to demonstrate that this is a faulty argument made by the crit. Here's what you have to understand. So let's look at this word le here. Le. It says to her. So it is it's not even in the masculine, so I don't see why Christians are so excited about this. To her, to get, and then it says give it, like Yehiv, right? That's giving. Dominion, Shiltan, Vikar, right? Preciousness, splendor. Umalchu, royalty, right? Kingship, right? So to her, this is le, right? So kingship is given to the one like the Son of Man, right? So if kingship is given to the one like the Son of Man, according to the interpretation of the dream, the holy ones of the Most High receive that kingdom. So le applies to these Kodshei Elyonin, the holy ones of the Most High. Le, right? In Daniel 7:14, which Courtney is, this is the hill she's dying on, because it says le, right? That can only refer to the Messiah. Well, we see here that le also refers to a plurality of people if we look at the interpretation of the dream in Daniel 7:18. It is given to more than one person. Le is also used for that, right? Then we have le used again, right? It says v'chol amaya, right? So, and it says all the people, the nations, umaya, right? The people, ulishanaya, and tongues. Le, to her, yiflachun, which is to serve, to pay reverence to, not exclusive to divine worship, right? So Courtney's arguing that because it says le in Daniel 7:27 here, right? It says le, yiflachun. The le can only refer to the one like the Son of Man. But she's forgetting the fact that in Daniel 7, because she's referring this le all the way back to Daniel 7:14. But le is not just used for the individuals receiving yiflachun. It's also used for the individuals receiving the kingdom. Le and le. And we know, according to Daniel 7:18, that more than one person receives the kingdom. So if le can refer to more than one person receiving the kingdom in Daniel 7:18, all the more so, why couldn't yiflachun, the same le, right, be used to refer to the holy ones of the Most High, who are explicitly mentioned as receiving not only the kingdom, but also Pelach. Le. It refers to the Kadshei Elyonin, not just the one like the Son of Man. That's the key to all of this. The Kadshei Elyonin. And who receives the kingdom and who receives Pelach. It's not just the Messiah. It's not just the one like the Son of Man, as we have proven over and over again.
We know this because it tells us in a higher passage in Daniel 14.
Daniel 7.
That's exactly right, Courtney.
Daniel
And
7. Excuse me.
that's where I was going, because I already know Yehuda doesn't accept the New Testament. So
No, so what
thanks,
it says
David.
is it says B'yishtachamun. That is in the plural, right? So that they're it's an obey.
Right, but let's follow through. Let's follow through with what the sister brought up, because I came to that same conclusion years ago. So Courtney, please spell that out again.
So essentially, the passage is telling you the same thing that Daniel 7:14 is saying, that the worship or Pelach is going to the him. Who is the him? It is the one that God gives his authority to, which is the Messiah. He's the one who comes to the Ancient of Days.
Exactly.
It is not the nations, sure, or not the kingdom of priests. Sure, yeah, they get the kingdom. We know that. That's the saints.
Sure, yeah, we know that. That's the saints, right? Well, guess what? Le, that same word, who she says is to him, it's actually to her, right? They also receive Pelach, right? If we're going to use le and say that that can only refer to one singular individual, then when we look at Daniel 7:18, which Kadshei Elyonin, right? Everyone agrees this refers to a plurality of people. If they can receive the kingdom, then they can also receive Pelach. If you're going to use le as the standard for that. Because once again, le is used for receiving the kingdom in Daniel 7:14. So why not Pelach? It's a double standard.
But the servitude goes to the him, which is the pronoun, as the nearest antecedent to the one who receives the worship.
Yes,
No, but
I
if you
would
look in-
agree. But
Wait,
the thing
what are you
is,
talking about the nearest antecedent? Because it says explicitly, right? You're, for some reason, referencing all the way back to Daniel 7:13 through 14. But your problem is that it says in Daniel 7:18 that the high holy ones receive the kingdom. So we already know that they are the ones who receive it. So that's what it's relating to. It's just reiterating what it already said in the interpretation.
We're not talking about who's receiving it, right?
That's the whole point, though. Because
Hold on a second. We're asking who is serving who?
So here, once again, pointing out his inconsistency. We're not talking about who's receiving it. Well, then why does it say dominion, glory, and kingship were given to him? So that part you don't care about. You only care about the part that says all peoples and nations in every language must serve him. So he's creating a superficial divide in what the one like the Son of Man receives in the dream, and trying to divorce the Pelach that is received from the dominion that is received and the kingship. That makes no sense, right? It says that the one like the Son of Man receives both the kingdom and the Pelach, right? And that's why I brought up Daniel 7:18, because a plurality of people, Kadshei Elyonin, receive the kingdom. So there's no problem with a plurality of people receiving le Yehiv, right? Receiving dominion and kingship, as well as Pelach, right? It's there's no way around it. They receive both, not just one.
You're saying the nations, right?
But it says that the one who receives the kingdom is the one who is served. So you can't divorce those concepts apart
You're
from
not
each other.
answering the question. Who?
I am answering your question.
Who is serving the nation of Israel?
I said, who is serving the nation of Israel? It says the nations. It says that all dominions and kingdoms. So all other kingdoms on earth will be serving the nation of Israel.
So let me here. Hey, Platypus.
David, you're literally contradicting yourself, bro.
So listen. If we look at Psalm 2, 7, and 8, we see that the Son of God, right, the Messiah, inherits the nation. So it is him that inherits the nations, not Israel. So the praise is going to him. We also have proof of this in Dead Sea Scroll literature, which predates Christ. So if we look at the Son of God text, the Son of God text says that this person is going to be called the Son of the Highest. He's going to be the Son of the Most High. He's going to be called the Son of God. He's also going to be called God, and his kingdom is going to be eternal. So the worship is going to the eternal God that inherits the nations. He's going to receive the worship, right? And the believers in him, right, who the New Testament calls the living stones that are in the stone that the builders rejected, will be with him, but they don't receive the worship. It is the Messiah who receives the worship because he's the one that inherits the nations. I'm going to put the Son of God text in the side channel so that everybody can read it, which goes before Rabbinic Judaism. And if we want to go into Rabbinic Judaism, then we can look at Shekiga 14a, where the chief of sages, Rabbi Akiva, is saying that this person is divine, right? And there's two thrones in heaven. So the person that's coming as the Son of Man has a throne as well, and he's going to be receiving the worship.
So this individual study to show is I can't really come up with a word without sounding mean. He's a deceiver. Like, he doesn't represent what Rabbinic Judaism says, and he basically tries to use it as a sort of straw man argument, right? I'm not using rabbinic arguments to try and make my case. He is misrepresenting rabbinic literature. Rabbi Akiva never believed in a divine Messiah. He's quoting a Gemara out of context, which was a debate about the thrones. It never says that Rabbi Akiva believed that the Messiah is God. God forbid, right? That's not a concept, right? I can go and quote the New Testament. I can go to John chapter 14, verse 16, right? Or chapter 14, verse 28, right? If I wanted to. And I could show you where Jesus claims that he is lesser than the Father, right? If I go to John 14, I can play this game all day, right? A Trinitarian wants to go up to me and say that, Jesus claimed to be God. I can quote, you've heard me say, I'm going away and I'm coming back to you. If you loved me, you would be glad that I'm going to the Father, for the Father is greater than I. Now, all the Trinitarians are going to start yelling at me and saying, you're taking that out of context. Okay, well, that's exactly what Study to Show is doing by quoting rabbinic texts, trying to stay away from the actual text of the Tanakh and try and contextually abuse them to say that rabbis agree with him, right? I can do the same thing with the New Testament if I want to. That's why I don't use the New Testament, because I know that Christians can't help themselves. People like Study to Show. Even Courtney eventually starts bringing up the rabbis. And once they do, then I show them their hypocrisy and I go full force. They cannot deal with what the Tanakh says, right? It doesn't go in their favor based on what Daniel says. So their desperate strategy is to go to rabbinic texts, to go to the Septuagint, to try and do anything they can to get away from the actual text of the Tanakh. It is not in their favor, and that's why they use rabbinic distortion to try and get off the inevitable. The Tanakh does not support their position that Pelach is exclusive to divine worship.
Yeah, and you find 2 thrones explicitly, while Daniel 7 doesn't tell you how many thrones. Ezekiel does. Ezekiel in the Septuagint 43, I think it's verse 40, Ezekiel 43:13 or 14 tells you have a great mercy seat and a little mercy seat. Only 2. So
exactly, there's only there's only 2 thrones. So when I said the thrones were cast down, he's automatically assuming that that's talking about each throne is for each person. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's only the Father and the one who the Mashiach, the King, who represents the Father on earth.
And it says that
that's right. I'm not even disagreeing with you,
hold on, David.
But y'all are separating the body of the saints from the Mashiach.
No, we're
that's
not.
What the error is right here.
We're not separating. The him, the word him is literally in verse 27.
Look, I'm not disagreeing, but the him is a group of people there because it's the Mashiach and his body.
Oh, I guess
exactly.
So, hang on,
because it uses it for the plural, and the singular. The kingdom is singular. The people are plural,
we're not disagreeing. That was my argument. You're the one who rejects the New Testament. So when you read that, because of the interpretation of the angel, you're assuming that that's Israel alone. I then showed you that when it talks about the 4 beasts, is representing 4 kingdoms, which needs a head of the kingdom. So if the 4 beasts, which are kingdoms, have a head, then Israel, which is a kingdom, must also have a head. That's the point I'm making.
Of course it does, but you can't separate the head from the rest of the kingdom and say that only the head.
He says, I give up, because he was assuming wrongly that I was making a distinction between the head and the rest, right? That I'm saying that the Messiah is excluded from the Kadshe Elyonin. No, it's a part of it. And he's the one that's making the false. It's the same thing that Christians do with Isaiah 53, trying to say, oh, it only refers to the Messiah. No, it doesn't refer only to the Messiah, and it doesn't refer to Israel apart from the Messiah. It refers to both. It's the same mistake that Christians make over and over again with Psalms 110, with Isaiah 53, same thing here. It's not just the Messiah, it's Israel inclusive of the Messiah. Simple as that.
Receives the Pelach, because that's not what Daniel was saying. He says that, yes, the one like the Son of Man represented by the head receives Pelach, but that is representative of those who also receive it, as it explicitly states in Daniel 7:18. It's not just the Messiah who receives the kingdom, and that the people who receive that kingdom, according to Daniel 7:27, are more than one person, as we've already established in Daniel 7:25, that Kadshe Elyonin refers to more than one person. Well, that same phraseology is used in Daniel 7:27 regarding those who receive Pelach. So putting it all together, it's not just the Messiah receiving Pelach, it is the holy ones of the Most High, Messiah included. So you can't say it's exclusive to divine worship using that word Pelach, because it's used in Daniel 7:27 in a way that is not divine worship.
But it is exclusive to divine worship.
Hang on real quick, because Revelation 3:21 says, to him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne. So see, now you've got three. You've got the Father, the Son, and the saints all sitting on one throne together. And so, yes, Yehuda is he's not saying that this is not about the Mashiach here, but what he's coming from the angle that the body of people, which is the saints, is included in this. But the argument is being made to force this text to say, look, the Messiah is divine because it says he's receiving Pelach. But when you look at the interpretation, if you don't understand it through this perspective of a body and a head, then you're going to misunderstand the interpretation of what's being said here. He's not excluding it from being the Messiah. He's just saying that you're using the argument to say the Messiah is divine. Using this text, you would have to consistently say the saints are divine too, which he's correct on that. You would have to say that.
Thank you.
No, I understand your argument, but I don't need the word Pelach to tell me that the Messiah is divine, David.
So now Courtney is abandoning ship. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point, though. This is the hill they're dying on, right? But we see in Daniel 7:27, we only need one exception in order to prove this, right? And like I said earlier, there is no word in Hebrew that is exclusive to divine worship. So even if this was, which it's not, speaking about exclusively divine worship, that also wouldn't prove it based on what we know about the Hebrew language. But fortunately for us, Daniel 7:27 is the thorn in a Christian side regarding how to understand their Trinitarian. Actually, I'm very confused about Courtney, and maybe she can explain why she's using Trinitarian arguments to support her position when she claims she's not a Trinitarian. I still don't understand why she is doing that, but whatever. The point is that Daniel 7:27 proves that Pelach is not exclusive to divine worship, and basically Courtney's admitting this by abandoning ship.
The Messiah get to the Ancient of Days, according to Yehuda, if there is no divinity in him? You don't just hold on. Yehuda does not believe in Jesus. Yehuda does not believe that Jesus came once. How does this one get to the Ancient of Days while simultaneously being on earth at the same time? Keep in mind Ephesians' use with regards to the God coming to do exactly what we find in Psalm 22 that was done at Mount Hermon. So there's a lot more to it. It's not just a one text in Pelach and
I'll just say this as well. Revelation 2 and 3. If you're maintaining consistency into a second temple utilization of Daniel 7:27. So Revelation 2:26 says, "The one who conquers and who keeps my works until the end, I will give him authority over the nations. I will grant him to sit down with me on my throne, as I also have conquered and have sat down with my Father on his throne." That's Revelation 2:26 and 3:21. So, and all the Johannine scholars commentating on Revelation will say, this is John's utilization of Daniel 7:27 in conjunction with 7:14.
Yeah.
So David was bringing this point up to say that in Revelation 3:21, it says, I guess Jesus is speaking here and saying, "To the one who is victorious, I will give the right to sit with me on the throne, just as I was victorious and sat down with my Father on his throne." So it's saying that more than one person other than Jesus is going to be sitting on a throne along with the Father in this sense, right? So David was bringing this point up earlier. I feel like it's a very weak refutation that was just made. They don't really have an answer to that. So it's pointing out the internal inconsistency in the New Testament with how these thrones are even understood, as far as, are they exclusive for one person, or are they more than one? Honestly, that's inconsequential to me. All I care about right now is demonstrating that the word Pelach is not exclusive to divine worship, which we've already been able to demonstrate, as Courtney is clearly abandoning ship on that.
Yes, Psalm 68 verse 18. When you ascended on high, this is talking about God. When you ascended on high, you took many captives. You received gifts from people, even from the rebellious, that you, Lord God, might dwell there. So hold on. Let's back up here. We see the Lord God ascending on high and receiving gifts, when Rashi himself says that he took those gifts from the divine ones that sit in the council around God. So
now Courtney opened up Pandora's box. Now she's quoting the Rashi. She's going to regret she did that.
How is it that you see God, to ascend, God has to come down? So how does this figure in Daniel 7, whom Jews believe
which is exactly Paul's argument in Ephesians 4. It's like, by the way, this ascent and descent language is the same one who ascended and filled all the heavens and all that stuff.
And he's not understanding, right, that let's go with his argument. If the nations was to give Pelach to Israel, that will go against the law itself. What are you talking about? You can't have Elohim before God.
Yeah, it does if you assume that the word Pelach is exclusive to divine worship, which it's not. I'm giving you an example where it's not.
Right, exactly.
Show me where it's not in all the 10 times. We can go through it.
I just showed you one, and if you want to go to the rabbis, since you love the rabbis so much, guess what the rabbis say?
No, I don't love the rabbis so much.
No, but listen. According to the rabbis, according to the rabbis, it says in my ketubah, when I married my wife, that
Stop
I'm
right there.
supposed to
Stop
give-
right there.
that
Hold on.
I'm supposed to give
Yehuda,
Pelach to
you are
her.
using
So
a
according to
Tovia
the
Singer
rabbis-
argument. You don't get.
Courtney is very triggered now because I'm using a Tovia Singer argument. I'm not using a Tovia Singer argument. I didn't even know that that's what Tovia Singer used. Somebody told it to me. Maybe he phrases it that way, and I was unaware of that when I was told this. The point is just to demonstrate that the word Pelach, even according to rabbinic sources such as Targum Onkelos, right? Here's the word Pelach being used when it says, this is Genesis 9:25. He said, cursed is Canaan, a slave of slaves shall he be to his brothers. So Pelach is used for this word serving in the Aramaic here, right? This is Targum Onkelos, which is a first century Jewish translation of the Torah, right? This word has anciently been used. That's why when she brought up rabbinic sources and she starts appealing to Rashi, I'm using the Rashi, though. That's the big reveal here, is later I say, like, look, everything that I have said is completely in line with what Rashi states, right? If you look at the Rashi, he acknowledges that this one, like the Son of Man, refers to the Messiah, but what the Christians ignore is exactly what it says here. He gave him dominion, and to that man he gave dominion over the nations. For the heathens he likens to beasts, and Israel he likens to a man, because they are humble and innocent. That's what I said the entire time. It's not just referring to the Messiah, it's referring to Israel as well when it likens to a man. That's Rashi's position. I am consistent with the Rashi. The Christians are the ones that are trying to isolate the passage to say it's only about the Messiah in Daniel 7:13 through 14. Rashi doesn't say that. I never said that. That's not the rabbinic position. It refers to both.
To take a word in the Bible
You're asking about,
and
you brought
apply
up the
it to
rabbis,
a
Courtney.
ketubah.
You brought up the
No,
rabbis.
Yehuda,
So if you
come
want to
on.
bring up the rabbis and bring up Rashi, let's see how the rabbis actually understand the word Pelach.
No, the word
Pelach,
the word Pelach being used in a post-biblical document, i.e. a ketubah, does not change the way
So
it's
then why are
used
you
in the
bringing
Bible.
up Rashi? You brought up Rashi.
No, brother,
trying to
listen
say that
to what
the
I'm saying.
Jews agree with something that you believe, which obviously they don't. So
No,
don't
you're
bring
not
up
hearing
Rashi.
what I'm saying. Rashi isn't taking a word and misapplying it and saying this is the way it was used
Rashi
in the Bible.
doesn't. Can you admit that Rashi does not believe that the Messiah is given divine worship in Daniel?
No, that's
7?
not my point. That's not what I was saying. You're not hearing what I'm
So
saying.
then I don't understand why you bringing up Rashi has any relevance to the conversation.
Rashi
You know that
is
Rashi
talking-
agrees with my interpretation. He
Okay.
literally, I'm quoting from the Rashi interpretation because
But you
it's
can't.
Grabbing the
I understand, but you can't take
need
the
Rashi,
argument.
though, because it literally states it in the dream. I don't need the
All right,
Rashi
folks,
interpretation
let's
to
stop
prove my
talking
point.
over each other. This is exactly why we should have never went to the New Testament.
Well, anyway, regardless, I have to go, but thank you. This is
DL's acknowledging that. See, the New Testament doesn't help their case. I mean, I didn't even bring it up in the first place, but they have nowhere to go with this. Pelach clearly, without the New Testament, demonstrates that in Daniel 7:27, Pelach is not given exclusively to one individual. It is not a exclusively word used that's used for exclusive divine worship. This is just simply false, and we've proved this in every which way.
great conversation.
We didn't even bring up the New Testament. It was David who brought up Revelations for no reason. He's not even adding anything.
But what he can't. But see, the thing that he can't do is take the argument that we're going to take the word the way it's used in the Bible and we're going to use it a completely different way. And then we're going to say the way that we use it today, modern wise, is a way that we're going to presuppose that back into the text, which is what Jews do when they write the word in a ketubah, that man would serve his wife. Obviously, they're not worshiping his wife. I don't care what the ketubah says. That's not the way it's used in the Hebrew Bible. And in the Hebrew Bible, 10 times it's used. Okay, so we're contesting the verse 27, but all the other times it's used of divine worship unto Hashem.
Once again, there is no Hebrew word that is used exclusively for divine worship. So the fact that you only have 10 times that a word is used, right, and we have at least one time that it's clearly not used for divine worship, that's the game over for you. You can't double down on this argument when you don't have Hebraic support for it and you don't have contextual support for it. Unless you want to argue that the high holy ones, that Kadshei Elyonin, are all a bunch of divine persons that are worthy of divine worship. No. The answer is that Pelach is not exclusive to divine worship.
God, with regards to the temple, the priests, the holy things. We don't get to just take that word and say, I know it's used of divine worship in the Hebrew Bible, but I'm going to use it in a ketubah and then say that's how we really should understand it.
It's not just the ketubah, it's Targum Onkelos, which is, once again, a first century work, right? That demonstrates that, see, they only want to look at the rabbis when it, you know, if anything is to contrary of what they believe about words, they don't want to have anything to do with the rabbis. They want to have their cake and eat it too. Only use the rabbis to contextually abuse them, right, when it serves their purpose. But then when the rabbis contradict their worldview, they don't want anything to do with it. That's why you win when you show them the Tanakh, and then when they start inevitably bringing up the rabbis, you can show them how the rabbis agree with your position, not theirs, and then show the hypocrisy by showing them verses like John 14, verse 28, which say that Jesus is lesser than the Father, so he's not divine. Just give them a taste of their own medicine.
Yeah, he tried to make that argument, use that same argument the other day.
Tobiah does.
Who cares? If an argument, you know, if it ain't broke, why fix it? The argument is perfect for refuting this. And this was the final say in this.
Guys,
anyway, we are the body of Christ. So,
amen.
That's exactly what is being expressed in Daniel. I mean, we understand that because we follow the greater revelation, and we are all individual members of that body. So, therefore, when it talks about the people of the kingdom, it's actually talking about us who are the body of Christ. So it's an individual and a collective within that individual.
Yes. One question.
Right, that's exactly how the New Testament breaks it down, and I think y'all were just
flat attack.
too focused on trying to disagree with
flat attack.
what's
You
his
just
name,
jumped in
Yehuda.
and interrupted Luke.
See, David gets it. The Christians agree with what I'm saying, that the collective receives the kingdom, but then they make this weird distinction between Pelach because they're making an erroneous argument that doesn't fit. The one like the Son of Man receives the kingdom and the Pelach, not just the kingdom and not just the Pelach, both, which is why when you see in Daniel 7:18 that the Kodshei Elyonin, the plural, not just one individual, receives the kingdom, the same Kodshei Elyonin receive not just the kingdom, but the Pelach in Daniel 7:27. I hope this video has been a blessing to you. Shalom Aleichem.